The massive showdown between Captain Amarinder Singh and Navjot Singh Sidhu ahead of elections in the state of Punjab. That showdown seems to see no end, and the Congress leadership is also taking its own time to end this conflict, to end this crisis. Now, the sources seem to suggest that Punjab Chief Minister today huddled more of his loyalist MLAs at his Siswan farmhouse. The past few days have only seen a series of meetings, closed-door meetings, hectic parleys, in various camps. In fact, we know that a series of meetings were also held by Navjot Singh Sidhu. He met MLAs and ministers from Captain Amarinder's camp as well. There is some kind of a reportage coming through that some of the ministers who may have rebelled against Captain Amarinder and sided with Sidhu feel that they will now be sacked. Sidhu also held meet with his own loyalists. He most importantly met Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi again today over this entire issue, and a series of other meetings that have taken place. On the other hand, Captain Amarinder too has been extremely busy holding emergency meetings, straight from Thursday when he met his own loyal MLAs and ministers. He's also had a meeting last week with Sonia Gandhi. On record, they seem to say that they will, he also said that he will abide by whatever decision Sonia Gandhi takes. Now, the Punjab in charge of the Congress party, Harish Rawat, also has been extremely busy, meeting all sides and having conversations with all sides, saying that there is no announcement yet about Sidhu becoming the Punjab's Congress chief, and when there is a decision, he will come out and inform us. But is that going to take place? And will the Punjab Congress unit then see a dual power center with Sidhu as the Punjab Congress chief and Captain Amarinder as the CM candidate who will be leading the party into the campaign mode and election mode in a few months from now? Will that really work? Is that going to be the solution at the end of the day? Let's say good evening to Charan Singh Sapra of the Congress party, Ahhbaab Singh Grewal, spokesperson for the Aam Aadmi Party, Vipin Pabbi, senior journalist, and Vinod Sharma, political editor for Hindustan Times, also joining it right now. Let me first actually start off with Mr. Vinod Sharma. Mr. Sharma, do you feel and believe that the Congress leadership has allowed this to fester on for too long? By now, they should have gotten a handle on it and announced the decision, whichever way. Is it that within the Gandhi family, they're not able to come to an agreement of what needs to be done?
Well, I assume that it was a short story, which by now should have had a happy ending, but it has turned into some kind of a paradise lost, It is going on and on and on, and has a lot of tragic connotations to it. It's unfortunate that two very popular leaders who should be working together so close to the elections are at daggers drawn. And the central leadership has not really helped the situation by setting up the three-member committee, some of whose members were happy appearing before cameras and making known their points of view and telling that when a decision will happen on when when the whole problem will be resolved. And perhaps that is where the complexities have arisen. Amarinder Singh has no issues with Mr. Sidhu becoming the chairman of the campaign committee. He has no issues perhaps with taking him back to his cabinet, maybe even as deputy chief minister. But to have two Judge Sikhs, in two key positions in the Congress party just before elections, one the PCC chief, the other the chief minister, then where shall the social balance which any party needs before elections go? That is the big question. And I think that Navjot Sidhu, having had his bad moments with Amarinder Singh, thought that the iron was now hot. He must strike because of that High Court judgment throwing out the SIT probe, the first SIT probe, and asking the government to set up another one into that incidents of sacrilege. He raised these issues. I think that still there is scope for a reconciliation. The Congress party should realize that the tallest leader today in Punjab is Amarinder Singh, more so after the semi-retirement of Prakash Singh Badal. And given his clout and given his status in the party and in the state, they cannot afford a sulking chief minister going into elections with a PCC chief he doesn't like breathing down his neck. So this is not teamsman. This is not anything like setting up a team, good team to win an election. And other parties are looking for an opportunity to enter the vacuum. Mr. Sidhu has also made certain tweets about Aam Aadmi Party, perhaps as part of his brinkmanship game vis-a-vis Amarinder Singh. But I think that Sidhu is young and that he can wait his turn. Amarinder Singh is 79, and I don't think that he's going to, if he becomes chief minister again, that he will like to have his full term. Perhaps his age will not permit that. So Mr. Sidhu should wait his turn and be a good doubles partner for the chief minister, because together, you see, Sidhu has his own strong points. He's a very good campaigner. He's a celebrity. He can move young people in the state. He's good in many ways. But one problem between the two is that there's clear and total lack of compatibility insofar as their politics and their styles are concerned.
All right. Very interesting points that you have made here. And I'm going to take the last point that you made and take it across to Vipin Pabbi also before we go to our political representatives. Mr. Pabbi, I wanted to ask this as well. What is it that Sidhu brings on the table for the Congress party in the current scenario as we get into elections? What is it that is worth saying, okay, we can make him the state party chief? We can create some kind of dual power centers. We can afford to have a sulking chief minister going into election mode. What justifies that?
I quite agree with Vinod. He has been looking at the Punjab scene closely for a long time. You see, this delay is causing more damage to the party. Till about 2 or 3 months ago, it was a clear-cut run for the Congress. They would have won hands down. There was no opposition. But they have been inflicting self-wounds. And this tendency is now continuing. I mean, for the last about 10, 15 days, every day they say a decision will come in 2 or 3 days and all that. So this indecision is causing more damage to it. And your question about Mr. Sidhu and Captain Amarinder Singh, yes, I think that even if a kind of a patchwork is done, even then I don't think these differences among them are going to be reconciled. There are two deep differences. Their styles of working are totally different. And the way Mr. Sidhu has been criticizing the government and particularly Captain Amarinder Singh, it's not really going to, nobody will believe that they have reconciled. So I think even if they take a decision, that's why I think they are taking so much of time. But as Vinod was saying, Sidhu has his points, and that point is one of the important points is his value to cause damage to the Congress. So in case he goes out of the Congress, I think that is one thing that they are fearing, that if he goes to the Aam Aadmi Party or does something else, because he has a gift of gab, he can speak, he can talk, get the crowds, and he is very active on social media and everything. So Congress is, I think, fearing that he is going out of the party will damage it more than if he remains within the party. So that is a kind of a balance they are trying to strike. But certainly Captain Amarinder Singh and his supporters are not at all in favor of getting Navjot Sidhu as a party chief, because that will open up a Pandora's box. There are several other contenders who have been Congress leaders for a very, very long time and proven leaders and very loyal leaders. So they would certainly not like that to happen, that Navjot Sidhu is given that go-ahead to the party. So the bickerings are likely to continue even if he is to be made the party chief or given some other opposition, unless they come out with something out of the box solution, trying to balance various factions in Punjab Congress. Otherwise, Congress is actually damaging itself more by this delay in taking it.
Okay, so two of our experts, journalists, very well entrenched into the political spheres and political journalism are saying this. Mr. Charan Singh Sapra, why is the party dragging this issue on and causing damage to itself and its political fortunes in Punjab?
No, Tanvi, see, it's not about dragging the issue. The party has gone in a very democratic way in the process of Punjab Congress. The three-member panel, they met more than 200 leaders from Punjab. Shri Rahul Gandhi, he met around 50 to 60 prominent leaders from Punjab. And they have gauged everything, whether they are the internal matters of the party or whether it is the political scenario or the new political issues with which we are going to go into the Punjab elections. So the High Command and the three-member panel, everybody at the state in charge has assessed the entire situation in Punjab. And that's why it must be taking little time, because they have to figure out so many things. It is, though media is capturing only Sidhu and Captain Amarinder Singh, but there are various other issues on which party must be putting a stress. Party must be viewing all the issues, and accordingly they will take a decision. I feel the decision will be taken at the earliest, as Mr. Harish Rawat said. The High Command has met everybody. Even Mr. Sidhu seeked an appointment with Congress President, which he has met today. So probably I feel a positive solution will come out, and Congress will go in for election as a united force. Mr. Pabi was saying it might go as a divided house, but not a divided house. It will go as a united force, and the issues will be the political issues. Issues will be the issues concerned with the people of Punjab. The major issue in this election will be the 3 farm bills. The way Congress has supported, the way Congress has stood with the farmers, I don't feel, and Punjab is having an agri-based economy. I feel having an agri-based economy, farmers being the largest section of the population, Congress standing with the farmers, fighting for the farmers issue right from Punjab.
Yes, and we would actually like to hear a lot more about.
So that Punjab farmers are going to.
Charan Singh Sapra. In fact, we would also like to sit and discuss all of the key election issues, the real issues that matter to people. But, we can only start doing that once you get your house in order. You say we will go in as a united front. Tell me, how is that going to happen when on an everyday basis, the fault lines are only getting more intense? People are one after the other picking sides, going either on this camp or becoming part of that camp.
See, Tanvi, this situation is normally seen in all the larger parties. Let me give you an example of BJP, probably Uttarakhand. What has happened there? 3 chief ministers changed in, say, probably 4 months. What is happening in Madhya Pradesh? Shivraj Singh Chauhan versus Narottam Mishra. In Gujarat, Rupani versus C.R. Patil versus Nitin Patel. Himachal Pradesh is also similar. Likewise, you see Karnataka, Yediyurappa versus Yesharappa. So in larger parties, there is a difference of opinion. The leaders, they tend to go beyond the party boundaries. They tend to go to media or maybe to the social media. These situations are always there. It is not that this is happening only in Congress party. It is happening in all the larger parties. You see what is happening in Bihar between Nitish Kumar and BJP also. Mr. Jaiswal, who's the president of BJP in Bihar, every day he's countering the Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. What about Tunna Pandey? Tunna Pandey episode, all the media, including your channel, has shown everything. So these are the issues. There is an internal party democracy, I would like to say again, and we had an elaborate discussion on that. We had an elaborate thought process on that. And I feel tomorrow or day after, you will definitely find a solution of this Punjab issue. And after the solution is found, there will be a united face of Congress party, which will go to the people.
Okay. Let me then bring in our 4th panelist, who's very patiently heard everybody out and get in a view from Ahhbaab Singh Grewal as well. Mr. Grewal, is this working out well for you guys? The longer the Cong infighting continues, the better it is for its rivals?
You know what? Actually, we don't see it, look at it like that. As far as Punjab is concerned, this is an elaborate soap opera which is being played out by the Gandhis, and which Amarinder Singh and Sidhu have become willing pawns. And that is because they want to call this hoax, that everything that was wrong with Punjab for the past 4.5 years was because of Amarinder Singh, and now that Sidhu has come, everything will be okay. You were very right when you said that we would love to talk about the issues. This is Congress's internal politics. What has happened is that they are so used to making it about themselves that they've forgotten about the state that they are concerned about. Punjab is down the dumps. Could anybody even answer that? Why has Punjab fallen from the top tier in the country to the bottom in the past 25 years, where both the Congress and Akalis have been ruling alternately? Why has Punjab fallen down dramatically in the past 4.5 years when Captain Amarinder Singh was around? Why is there rampant corruption in Punjab when both of them accuse each other of corruption? Well, that's a fact. They are not lying. They are both corrupt. When Captain Saab says, I've got 40 MLAs who are corrupt, and when Sidhu says that, okay, there's a mafia, right? They are both correct. The problem here is that everybody feels, well, basically, they are insulting the intelligence of the Punjabis when they say that it's between Captain and Sidhu. No, it is not. The fact is that Punjab needs change. We've had enough of them. We've had enough of our congressmen running to the center, running into the Gandhi Darbar and asking them to decide who's bigger. We've had enough of the Akalis and the BJP turning on the heat on religion, on every other aspect but governance. Governance in Punjab has never been spoken about. Our problem is this. Why can't you speak about the issues of Punjab? If Sidhu, has he ever said anything positive about his government? All he says is, Sattarthi, the Badals are running the ship. Everybody's in it. It's total free for all. That's what Sidhu says. Has he even ever said one good thing about it?
So we had, Ahhbaab, I'm sure you heard our experts say that, perhaps for Congress, it's more important to keep him within the Congress. Otherwise, outside the party, he does more damage to them. Now, since he seems to be very closely tracking what the Aam Aadmi Party is saying and doing, would you guys be open to taking him?
Well, he has never said so. We have never been in talks with him. And if he is willing to leave the corruption that is behind, but he will never do that for the simple fact that he is so enamored when he gets a photograph or a photo op with the Gandhis. He's so enamored. So how can Punjab trust him? How can Punjab trust him? He is saying what we've been saying for the past so many years. What we basically want is a clean break.
Okay.
25 years, these three parties have ruled us. And now we've got what? Sycophants running up to the Delhi Darbar. Earlier, we had sycophants running up to Captain Amarinder Singh. Well, the shoe is in the other foot now. Like it's basically, the foot is in the shoe, the shoe is in the foot now. And because Captain Amarinder Singh had to wait for an audience, now he's going ahead kissing puppies. He's going ahead meeting children. Well, he didn't meet anybody for the past 4 years.
Okay.
Mr. Sidhu didn't meet anybody for the past 4 years, did he? He disappeared as well.
Okay, yes. Charan Singh Sapra would want to respond to that, and then I go back to Vinod Sharma.
See, who's talking about psychophancy? Akali Dal is known as the #1 party for the psychophancy, and it is a party of sycophants itself. But people are going to ask various questions to even Akali Dal. They are asking today also. For example, the electricity issue. People are still asking why Akali Dal government had to shut 3 thermal plants which were owned by the Punjab government, operated by the Punjab government. Why you had to bring in 3 private plants? And why did you make that PPP agreement which says that 90,000 crore has to be paid by the Punjab government periodically? And then you protect that agreement with 122 clauses. Captain Amarinder Singh's government went to the lower court. They won the case in the lower court. But these private companies, they got protection from the Supreme Court just because 122
No, so that is what, Mr. Sapra, that is exactly what Ahhbaab Singh Grewal of the Aam Aadmi Party is saying, that people of Punjab are fed up and they need a change. So they need a change from the Akalis and from the Congress Party.
Mr. Grewal, no, I thought Mr. Grewal is from Akali Dal. That's why I'm answering.
That's the arrogance. That's the arrogance, ma'am. That's the arrogance speaking. That is not the. They don't have answers. They have ready-made answers, and that's the arrogance speaking. Well, sir, you know my name. You heard me. And that's the arrogance of it. They feel that they deserve to rule Punjab. Both these parties feel that they have a birthright over Punjab. No, they do not.
Okay.
Punjab deserves better.
Okay, let me go back to Mr. Vinod Sharma. Mr. Vinod Sharma, is there also a thought process within the Congress Party that we have some time to figure this out, because the challenge to them in Punjab isn't so grave, or that they don't really care about which way that state goes in election?
You see, in the last elections, 2017, I was in Punjab. I traveled extensively. I also went to these areas where the Aam Party was strong, believed to be strong. But the end of it, my assessment was that Aam Aadmi Party ka shor hai, Punjab ka Congress ka zor hai. You see, Aam Aadmi Party had taken off very well in Punjab. But what was the charge leveled against them at that time? That they too are being controlled by Delhi. Their Punjab leaders are being controlled by Delhi. And they didn't have a prominent face to project except Bhagwant Mann, and whatever Bhagwant Mann is a popular leader, but he wasn't as strong in terms of his image and other things as the other parties. So Aam Aadmi Party has a good chance if the Congress doesn't put its act together. I agree with that. But at the same time, the Aam Aadmi Party needs a face. It doesn't have a face in Punjab, as in 2017. And in 2017, regardless of what people might say about Captain Amarinder Singh, we used to ask voters, whom are you going to vote for? And they would say Captain. They wouldn't even take the name of the Congress. They would say Captain. And the Aam Aadmi Party's dependence on certain vociferous groups who came from abroad, and they had to mark their presence because they had come from abroad to sort of campaign for the party. Then the Akali dissidents who were on the radical fringe, they were also very loud. So this loud campaign by the Aam Aadmi Party, it just pushed the non-Sikh vote into the Congress camp. And that is where they got done in by their own acts. Till now, you see, Arvind Kejriwal, when he was in Amritsar, if you remember, he made some good noises. He was all sugar and honey about Navjot Sidhu. But Navjot Sidhu had ambled up to the Aam Aadmi Party and then beaten a hasty retreat in the run-up to 2017. Both Pargat Singh and Navjot Sidhu are temperamentally difficult people to handle. They have both been sportsmen. They've been parts of India's national teams, one in hockey, the other in cricket. But when it comes to politics, there is a problem with their teamsmanship. I mean, that's what I believe. I may be wrong, but this is my reading.
Mr. Pabbi, would you agree? I know Ahhbaab wants to respond, but before I go to him.
Yeah, Aam Aadmi Party had a good chance last time, and one of two major factors went against them. One is that they did not project the chief minister, and many people apprehended that Mr. Kejriwal himself might become the chief minister. And in Punjab, they would rather prefer to have a Sikh chief minister. And second was that, the selection was done by people who were not from Punjab, and there were a lot of problems with that. But this time that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal has made it very clear that it will be a Sikh face. He hasn't given out the name yet, but he says it will be a Sikh face. But the kind of organizational setup which they had last time, up to the ward level, this time they don't have that. So, and the party is also split. Number of their MLAs have left, and there is actually no proper or good leadership that is there. So, it is very less time now left, about 5-6 months only. Depends on how better they can, build up their machinery. But it is the Congress which is the main focus, and it is likely, it's a fight between the Congress versus Congress. Because it will depend on how the party evolves and strategizes for the coming election. That will be most important.
Yes, and I asked this also, one of course is the Aam Aadmi Party, but even from the Akali's point of view, have they been able to get their house in order? They made a huge, hue and cry about the farm laws, exited from the government to try to catch up on the farm laws politics with the Congress party. But did that help, Mr. Pabbi?
Oh, well, no, it won't really, because the situation is evolving, frankly.
Yeah.
And still one doesn't know this. They have been procrastinating for about 10, 15 days now. Every time they say that 2-3 days more for it. So situation is rather fluid at this stage. It's very difficult to say because the pressures are being built up from all the sides. So I think we'll have to wait and watch exactly as to what is the kind of formula that Congress brings to the play.
Okay, quick comment from Ahhbaab before we wrap this up. Yes.
Yes, I would like to agree partly with both Mr. Sharma and Mr. Pabbi. We were novices, so a quick Beadvi here, a quick bomb blast there, a quick Khalistani here, a quick communist or a Delhi person there, that worked the last time. We saw what happened. These people don't care if 2 or 3 people die in a bomb blast. All they want is power. But what have faces given Punjab? Aam Aadmi Party is offering Punjab a clean cut from the past, clean governance, and we assure you, we will give Punjab an accountable government. For the past 4.5 years, yes, people did say we want Amarinder Singh Sarkar, but what have they got in the past 4.5 years? What did they get? Nothing. They didn't even get justice for the Beadvi. They didn't even know who conducted a bomb blast 2 days before the elections. Well, sir, these parties know their trade. We are not like them. That's what we are offering the people of Punjab. We don't apply our politics like them. We value people's lives. We value the human life, and we believe that governance should be for the people, not for the ruling classes, which unfortunately both these factions have been doing already. So Aam Aadmi Party will prove that Punjab has a future, and AAP will bring that future. I can assure you that.
I'm sure we'll have lots and lots of more conversations about
I'd love to have
the
that.
people's issues and the electoral issues and which way we are headed with all of you. For now, we are watching very closely how Congress goes about fixing this Captain versus Sidhu fight. Completely out of time. So thank you to all 4 of our panelists for joining us on this conversation. Like we've said, viewers, hectic parlays, conversations, negotiations, phone calls, letters, all of it is happening between the 2 camps with the Gandhis in the middle before a final decision is made. Buzz is that Sidhu may become the Punjab Congress Chief, although that may not make Captain Amarinder too happy. But if that's how it is, we will have to wait and watch what happens next. Thank you for joining us on this conversation.